Hello everybody and thank you for joining. This is your host Nino, and I'm inviting you in this episode to behold my failure with these two Chinese beauties. W806 chips, very powerful for their price. They were costing around €2 each, something like that. A good while ago on AliExpress, when compatible ESP chips did not exist, and therefore the price to performance ratio of those looked amazing. And I thought, alright, it's a new thing, but why not try it out? There would be certainly a way of letting that run on Linux. And, well, spoiler ahead, no, there isn't. Nothing sensible, at least. You can let it run, but it won't be sensible. It's just going to be a big waste of time. On Windows, you might have a chance, actually, and in that case, you may watch on. Essentially, it's just adding a reference to a JSON file describing the boards, and then from the board manager getting the correct board definition, and then you get it in your list of boards and everything is working. But that's unfortunately not the case with Linux. And the rest of this video is something like the Blair Witch project. Just I'm not walking through the forest and into more nightmarish situations, but rather I'm stumbling through various web pages, of course in Chinese, as the chip seems to be rather well established there, and they for themselves have apparently a really nice setup for that. And I don't know Chinese, so there's the adventure of that. and in the end accomplishing nothing. So if you want to see me fail, welcome to hell very kindly. But other than that, simply maybe just take the warning and heed it. No W806 chips at this point in time. And on we go. So I googled about W806 and Arduino, and I found this GitHub repository belonging to Nullaborg about W806, like even other variants of the chips, and I'm like, yes, this is going to bring us forward. And then I scroll down, and then I like, no. but actually this is such a well-structured description that it was nonetheless very useful. Like, it did show that it was having 1 megabyte flash and 288 kilobyte RAM, and most of the other things are sort of quite clear just from looking at the data, even though it's quite Chinese, right? At least to me it is, because I was first afraid that this is going to totally checkmate me. But then when you are looking more carefully, what is this? This is an advice to find a JSON file. And then this thing here looks pretty much like an Arduino interface. You're having here this final line with the preferences text, and although it's in Chinese, I mean, how do you add commonly board definitions? You paste them in here, right? So the whole thing wasn't actually quite as frightening as it looked in the first sight, namely, to just paste it where you would normally do that. And that here, well, while we don't know what it is, I mean, what can it be? It is likely the board manager, and it is telling you to install something called the... I was totally laughing at the name, seriously. The CSKY. I mean, I don't know what CSKY stands for. It sounds a bit like Czechki, or perhaps it's like the predecessor of the DSKY, which happened to have been the Apollo computer's user interface. But anyway, so you're having here some W806 Arduino CSKY plain C and C++ core. So here you're having the W806 explicitly mentioned. So I thought, okay, so it's clear. We're getting first the board in the like board definitions place, and then we're going to install its core through the board manager, and then we should be having some section here called W806 boards, and there we should be able then to do things with it. So I thought, oh, that's great, of course. And while the rest was not necessarily easy to understand so far, I nonetheless tried this experiment, and it failed. It failed because apparently this JSON file didn't actually get me anywhere. Like, did not get me so far that I could do something with that. So I had to look for something else, and I found, googling on, this Russian page where some JSON file was apparently manually being created, mentioning also some zip file here, and the person who did that apparently advised to simply get the JSON file locally from drive C. Somehow that did not quite work for me either, so I googled on, and just found a variant of the previous repository, like this one. I just found a variant of it, and that did not seem terribly helpful either, but already now we were having more interesting path variants. So you see here's one with a proxy, and here's like the same thing without proxy. And the question is which one will work for you. So I thought, okay, so now I have more than one option to do that. However, and the rest of the instructions look the same. However, I thought I'm getting tired of this, I mean, it's great, but it feels like as if you step into a foreign civilization and do your best to read the stuff from the walls. So instead of that, I just went over to the Firefox add-ons, and I got something called Translate Web Pages, and I fully concur. The stars are totally deserved. This thing is working awesomely. So on I went then, and I found again some site. Yeah, that's pretty much what the board looks like, right? And I found again some site describing again the board in general terms with its 288 kilobyte RAM, which somehow for me is apparently its most important property, and also that they are ridiculously cheap. A little over $2 on AliExpress. And I thought, I mean, it must be possible to do something with them, right? So that did not, however, give me an immediately useful hit, but it did show perhaps some nice close-up photos in case I want to increase that and show that to you. So this is really what it looks like. Yeah, come here. And if you're not careful enough when buying that, and that did happen to me, there are some sellers which are selling only this chip. Now this thing is way smaller than your fingernail. There is no realistic chance that a normal person only without particular skills is going to be able to solder that in any way or use that anyhow. So here he describes a little bit about the course and about this and that, but for me, stupid as it sounds, price was the main driver. And then while looking for a proper JSON for that thing, one that would work, I actually stumbled on this thing, and that looked again like that was the page we saw here. So that looked like some sort of, maybe, like I was hunting by now some JSON which would give me the Arduino core. And then I found something which looked pretty much like a blog posting about the whole affair, namely this. And I was by now looking also for Linux, so I found here Ubuntu, and I thought, okay, I mean, that's great. Let's do that. And I then used I clicked on it. Apparently was some page taken from here, like the the address changed just a little bit, and I got here to the same page, but again mentioning the W806 in conjunction with Ubuntu 20.04. So I thought that might be at least, the right track. And then I just used my little trickery here, my new add-on, which was able to translate pages. And I had this blog post translated to see what it is advising on Ubuntu. Will it show it now? Okay, it doesn't, but that was not too hard to find anyway. Let's see, where was it? Yes. So here the use was somehow described somewhat strangely, and was told that I can get something through some Baidu page and maybe use some code in order to get something from some Baidu disk, or to get here something, but that I might need to register. And when I went to this company's web page, I tried with my little translation tool, but I'm not sure that I'm even on the right track here. I think I just went somewhere into the blue and failed. However, this other idea, this to get it from some Baidu disk, apparently worked, and I found this thing, and when I clicked on it, it was asking me for this W806 password. But when I clicked on downloading it, it actually just got me this Baidu net disk for as a DBM package, and that was evidently not what I was looking for. So I did not want to install that and get anything from there, but instead just simply I decided to Google on, essentially, in particular knowing now what the archive should be called. Here you have it in this version 001, but there's also a version 002. Exactly. So I knew that this is what this thing should be called, and there finally it was. So it was in this like address here, like under some IP address, not even resolving as a host name, /download/toolkits/winner micro/W806. So that's where I found it, over here. And I thought, okay, let's give the whole thing a spin. And then this is how I found with this URL, basically this IO setting thing, which was giving an advice of how to get the W806 running in its own command line SDK. Now, my adventures, I forgot exactly where I got it from, did yield eventually a web page. But can I show it to you? I may have checkmated myself a bit on the resolution. Alright, I'll change the resolution and I'll show you what I did. So essentially one of those many URLs eventually worked, such as cdn.gsdeliver.net/gh -linkduino/W806 Arduino, like with underscore here, /package underscore W806 underscore index JSON did work and did not give me an error in downloading it. But when I went then to the tools and then went to the boards manager and really started to, this needs a moment here so it calms down. Okay, I'll not let you wait. I'll pause this until Arduino unfreezes. Yeah, finally everything froze here. So let's try the CSKY exactly. W806 Arduino. And I would want to install that core, right? However, that turns out not possible. And having adjusted again my resolution a little bit, you see here it's written tool W806 tool is not available for your operating system. So we're checkmated on the Arduino front, and we can't install that even if we want to. So unsurprisingly, under the boards I have all sorts of stuff, but no W806 something boards. So that's it. Arduino's out of the game. I must also say, without the Arduino IDE, my interest in it is also extremely limited, because frankly speaking, I'm not in the mood of learning all sorts of possible IDEs for all sorts of chips. I want to have one thing and use everything under it, and the Arduino IDE for the casual user does offer this comfort. It simply is what it is. So anyway, I went under very funny. Yes, I know. And then I went under my usual experimental directory and I installed this, like I cloned and followed the guide on this GitHub repository, this IO setting WMSDK806, but that just was not cute at all. Anyway, I did it. I used this file which I downloaded, this this big CSKY alpha biv file which I had gotten from here, right, on this 82157 thing. So I unpacked it and created some sort of tool chain and went and made a menu config of that thing. CD WM, just so you see it. It does not look so bad actually. You know, and here under the toolchain configuration, you're simply supposed to say where you put it. I put it not as they recommended. I made everything much simpler. Put it on the opt cheshki or CSKY bin. So that was all I did. And then I made it, and yeah, that's it. Now I should be able to use that. But you know, when you go under app, where supposedly the user app should be, in order to look at the blink sketch and look under, yeah, right, that's where the user app is though, isn't it? Yes, user application code. And then you look under main.c. This is just the code they're using for blinking this chip's LED. And frankly, yeah, that seems to be the main blinking loop. And frankly, I was put off totally. So the idea is basically that you're having some flag here, which depending on whether it is 0 or 1, is going to be increasing or decreasing the light, and that's how this thing is going to be blinking. But man, this is not what I dream of doing when I just want to blink one LED. And frankly, then I arrived at the conclusion that the chips are just not really worth the investment into them I would have to do time-wise in order to program them. Like, essentially, they are cheap, but if you want to produce something with 10,000 of them, but for my purposes, I'll be just better advised using anything else, like be it an ESP, being Arduino with wireless, being whatever else but that. So all in all, if you really want to use it on Arduino, then maybe with Windows or Macintosh or whatever else are these other mysterious systems where this is supposedly working, just might be a better choice for you. But Linux clearly isn't, and hence this experiment is being judged a failure. And with that, thank you for watching. Thank you for your patience, for standing through this whole unsuccessful endeavor. Still, perhaps it was, well, pedagogically interesting that not everything you see on Alibaba is worth getting. And with that, I wish you a wonderful evening. Hope to see you here again next time. Have a great time till then. And from me, goodbye.